Hello and welcome to another episode of the Orlando Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Gibson, and with me here today is Joseph Seagle. Joseph, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Well, hey, we'll go ahead and kick it off the same way we always do. Joseph, why is it that you do what you do?
I get out of bed every morning because I want to help people aspire to a better life. That's our mission, and that's why we keep the companies going. And a lot of people, I think, come up with a mission statement, and I read them, and they're very aspirational, or they're convoluted. But we spent a vision day, where we tried to determine what our mission is. And we realized that your mission has to come from inside you. And we'd been very fortunate over the years to have great mentors and coaches and guardian angels, we call them, helping pull us up. You know, people who climb the ladder ahead of us and they reach back and they pull us up. So we value that, and we want to be able to do that ourselves, whether it's for ourselves, our clients, our employees. We're always looking at, is this going to help this person aspire to a better life? And for me, that comes from practicing law and helping a lot of people, just as they become more successful, maintain their anonymity, because a lot of people don't want to be very showy with their assets, and they want to protect those for the next generation and their family, or for their employees. So that's really what I focus on for our clients. And for our employees, we just focus on trying to make sure they have a path for growth within the company, or if they decide to leave the company, that they have a path for growth after they've left us, that they've learned something that makes them not just a better person at their profession, but just a better person in general. They know more about themselves. They have better emotional intelligence about themselves, and that usually helps them to be better leaders wherever they end up after they've left us.
All right. Well, that's a lot that I would like to unpack. A few different points in there. So let's start with today. How is it that you see that mission statement play out for customers? And what is it? Who are those customers?
That's a good question. Our customers tend to be a lot of real estate investors, a lot of folks who've just been successful, whether they are professional sports players, content creators. We have quite a few YouTubers and Twitchers out there, which I didn't even know what a Twitcher was until I started doing all this. We have folks who have done well, and folks who are trying to do well, and they usually own quite a few real estate assets. Some are large, some are small, but they want to keep their name out of the public record, which is very difficult to do in the United States. When you own real estate, your name is pretty much out there all over the place and easily searched, at least in the tax records, if not in the official public records, which in Florida are all public records for a reason, because the public can see everything in there. So we provide a service on our affiliated company, My Land Trustee, where we will hold title to the property in a trust for those folks. So our name is what appears on the record. So that's what the tenants see. That's what the public sees. They see our name. They don't see that professional baseball player's name out there. So they're not a target. Also, we have a lot of professionals, doctors, CPAs, pharmacists, nurse practitioners, and those folks, while they have mechanisms to hide their identity, a lot of times that only applies to their personal residence. It doesn't apply to their investment properties that they may own around Florida. So those folks will look for ways to make sure their patients, disgruntled or otherwise, cannot find them.
Sure.
And their through the property records. So we hold the title, and again, tenants show up in our doorway, lawsuits show up in our doorway, and they don't
Sure.
affect all of their other assets, and they don't affect them personally. They just come to us.
Awesome. So you guys do asset protection and land trust through land trusts. It sounds like for individuals that would like to remain anonymous and not show up in public records everywhere.
Correct. And we can also do it with LLCs. We have some techniques that we use in LLCs that your name doesn't even appear on the SunBiz, the corporate
Gotcha.
database records for Florida.
Very cool. Awesome. All right. So that's what you guys do now. That's how you guys help consumers now. When did you start this business? Is this the first business you've ever started? Tell me a little bit more about some of the beginnings.
Well, I started doing the land trust business in 2002 through another company. And then in 2004, I created my own, and the company was called TRSTE. And over the years, we would hold title to property and for a lot of real estate investors who were buying, fixing up, and flipping, or for people who are buying and holding. And we would hold their title for them. And as part of that, in addition to my law firm, I also had, which I'd also started, I also had a title agency or two. And so they all worked hand in hand really well together. And the title company would handle the closings, whether it's purchase or selling. The land trust company acted as either the buyer or the seller at the time. And then the law firm prepared the documents and advised folks as they made their journey through their buying and selling real estate. And in October last year, we had an opportunity presented to us to sell one of our title agencies to a private equity company. So we did in April. That closed in April, and we sold that for a lot of money. And that left me some time, some breathing room. And I decided I also no longer wanted to handle real estate closings day in, day out. I'd done that for 20, almost 30 years at that point. And the stress was getting just tremendous, ridiculously high doing closings. Fraud was rampant. The market was starting to do its downturn because interest rates were going up. And I'd already survived the Great Recession once, and I didn't want to go through another housing recession as a title company owner. So I closed the residential title agency in October. By December, we had completely wrapped that up. So it left me, I told everybody I'd semi-retired, and they said, "What does that mean?" I said, "Well, I'm only working 40 hours a week instead of 80. And it sort of surprised a lot of people. But what it gave me the power to do is then I could just focus. And I focused on practicing law, and I focused on the land trust business. And I sort of was rejuvenated again to have this business that I'd sort of had. I'd always had the land trust business. We'd always had 400 to 500 trusts at any time under management. But it was just a side ancillary business to the title company and to the law firm. And I started getting bored very quickly. And we had instituted EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System, in all of our companies. To 2021, we had done that. And we saw it just help us grow phenomenally. We'd reached plateaus. We blasted through those plateaus on that. So I said, well, what'll be fun is to take this trust business and apply EOS to it and see how fast and how much we can grow and how well we can grow, how healthily we can grow. And a friend of mine, Mark Warda, who's considered the grandfather of land trusts in Florida, he literally wrote the book, Land Trusts in Florida, had approached me and said he was ready to retire, and he would really like it if I would buy his company, Land Trust Service Corporation. So 2 weeks after we closed on the sale of the title agency, I purchased Land Trust Service Corporation. And overnight, we went from about 450 trusts under management to over 2,000.
Wow.
So suddenly, we've scaled immediately overnight. And I always, run a business as a business. So it's a matter of looking at processes, people, uh, coming back to our mission, coming back to our core values, hiring, growing, automating, and getting those processes in place and the people in place to ensure that, you go from driving a Toyota Camry to now you're driving a Ferrari and you don't want
Yeah.
it to explode,
Yeah.
basically. And so far, it's been about 5 months now. I feel like we've I'm very proud of what we've accomplished just in 5 months of integrating the two businesses, that we've been able to do.
That's great. So I've not heard of EOS before. Entrepreneur Operating System. Is that correct? That's what that
Yes.
stands for. Okay.
Mhm.
Tell me a little bit more about that. Where did this come from? Is this your idea? Did you learn it from somewhere else? Tell me a little bit more about that.
Oh yeah, yeah. EOS came out of the book Traction by Gino Wickman.
Okay.
And it's an absolutely wonderful book. And I've been in coaching programs for lawyers for over 15 years, various coaching programs. So in those coaching programs, you may read a book like The Five Dysfunctions of a Team. You may read Kaizen, Persuasion. You'll read all of these different books, Good to Great, Who Moved My Cheese. You'll read all of these different books. But what Gino Wickman did with Traction was he took the best ideas of all of these best practices books that are out there of how you run your business, all these disparate books that deal with different aspects of building and running a business. And he boiled it down into a system called the Entrepreneurial Operating System. And they have taken that over the years, over the past 10 years, and they have grown it to where I believe there's over 1 million businesses around the world now that run on EOS. So as
Wow.
part of EOS is you number one, you have to define your role in the company. And there's usually two top roles of every company. You have a visionary. The
Mhm.
visionary is the person who has the big ideas. They have the big relationships with the biggest customers, uh, and they sort of set the tone of the company. I call them. I'm a big Star Trek fan, so I call them Captain Kirk. They are the
Okay.
Captain Kirk. They are the Captain Kirk of the ship, just like an admiral of the fleet.
Okay. So I have
But
to ask,
yeah,
are you Captain Kirk?
I'm Captain Kirk. I'm the
Okay.
visionary.
All right. All right.
Yeah,
I love it.
yeah, I'm the visionary in my company, and most entrepreneurs are visionaries, because it takes that vision to say, hey, I want to do this. And then you have that entrepreneurial paralysis that the book E-Myth talks about, of, okay, now I'm going to open my own business. And so many visionaries, they do that, and which I did in 2004. I went out on my own and opened my own law firm, and immediately within the year, I was grossing $100,000 a month, business coming in hand over fist. I had it real easy, not realizing I had opened my firm just in the boom time of real estate. Money was flowing easily, fraud was rampant, so people were buying and selling houses. You had waitresses buying $500,000 houses and then flipping them for $800,000 a piece within weeks. So of course I was doing well, but it was totally by luck. And then the Great Recession hit, and I'm like, oh crap, I actually need to figure out how to run a business.
Right.
Uh, I'd run on a cult of personality. Everybody just came to Joe because Joe was good at closing, and Joe knew real estate, so Joe was the place to go. And I'm like, I didn't build a business. I built a personality cult.
Right.
And as soon as that business turned down, I really didn't have any idea of how to do marketing. I didn't have any idea of how to do hiring and building processes. So I joined coaching programs in 2004, and they started teaching me, oh, this word of mouth, referral marketing, working on your processes is a very slow burn of how to do that. And between 2007 and 2023, that's pretty much what we did. But in 2021, we had been introduced to EOS through that coaching program. And that was their biggest mistake, because they introduced us to that. And we said, okay, well, this basically takes everything you've ever taught me since 2007 and puts it in one nice package and a process and a system to use to run my business. So in 2021, after we'd hit this plateau of, $1.5 million gross a year, just over and over every single year, it was like clockwork. We were going to make $1.5 million gross, no problem. We could do it in our sleep. Didn't know how we were doing it. We were just doing it. It just sort of happened. So we decided to implement EOS at the beginning of 2021. Remember, we'd been through a year, almost a full year at that time of a worldwide pandemic. And we go in and we find an implementer, because they're EOS implementers. These guys are professionals. They've studied it. They've gone through all the classes. They know it. They're also usually entrepreneurs themselves who have started, sold, bought, failed businesses, everything else. So we found a great implementer, John King, here in Orlando. And John sits us down for 2 days. And it's myself, my partner, and at the time, our COO. And we sit down for 2 days and have just very difficult conversations about what roles we have and who we are and how we fit. And so it was determined that I was the visionary of the company, because I'm great at coming up with big ideas. I'm horrible at execution. I'm absolutely horrible at managing people. I'm a people pleaser. I love for everybody to get along and be happy. And that's a absolutely terrible person to have managing people, because I will give you time off all the time and still pay you for it. You can do whatever you want, and Joe just lets it happen. So
You're the
that's
world's
where
best boss.
Oh yeah, the employees loved me because I let them get away with murder.
That's right.
So at that point, we realized, okay, Joe's not the visionary. So the next person in line with the visionary is what you call your integrator. Your integrator is your Mr. Spock, your number one. That is your XO in the Navy, your first officer. That is the person who the visionary comes up with ideas constantly. They write the integrator in the middle of the night saying, hey, I've come up with this great idea for marketing. We're going to drop turkeys out of the helicopter at a big event in front of a grocery store. And that'll get us so much marketing going there. So the integrator, though, is that voice of reason, who, number one, they have to have the courage and the ability to take the integrator's ideas and process them, and then go back to the integrator and say, this won't work like this, but it may work like that, or this is absolutely a wonderful idea. However, we're implementing these 18 other things this quarter. Which one of these do you want to stop so that we can start this one? That's their job, is to, number one, handle the captain and keep the captain on course, number one. Number two, they interact with everyone below, because again, the visionary typically is not the person who should be hiring and firing and managing the people or the processes down below. So the integrator is that person. They're usually a little more dispassionate, a little more focused on the bottom line, focused on the processes. Really, these people, our first integrator was a Six Sigma black belt. He had a lot of background in lean theory training for process mapping and making processes as efficient as possible. And so your integrator, they're typically going to be that they manage people well. They don't make friends, but they're not a horrible person. Everybody knows. And actually, we found that employees enjoy working for someone like that because they know where they stand.
Yeah.
It's black and white. There's no gray. They know they know how to score a 10. If there's a scoreboard, they know how to score a 10, and they know what a 5 looks like, and they know what a 0 looks like, and they know if they're not hitting at least 5 regularly, they're going to stop getting a paycheck because they're going to be gone. Because that's the table stakes. And if you're hitting a 10, now you're on the path to move up through the company and get not only just get bonuses, but you're on the pathway to be put into the leadership roles at some point. So you've got that. Then below that, you break down. Typically, most companies have 3 broken down areas. You have sales and marketing. You have what we call administration, which is HR, finance, human resources, IT, things that keep the company running. They are your lungs and heart of the company. And then you have your operations, and operations are the hands or the legs that actually do the work that generates revenue. Sales and marketing brings it in. Operations does the work.
Right.
Administration makes sure the wheels stay on the car. So just doing that exercise, we got our company reorganized. We determined what our mission was, helping people aspire to a better life. We came up with our core values, which now informs all of our hiring. If you don't meet, number one, you have to meet the technical, of course, requirements of a job, but of a position that we have open. But then we also test and question a lot to see if you would also meet our core values. Because if you don't meet our core values, you're just not going to be a fit. And then we promote and give raises and pay increases to how well you exhibit core values and push that mission forward and get your rocks done. This is another part of EOS. Every week, number one, everyone knows what they're accountable for. Everyone is accountable. There's never anyone in our company who says, well, I didn't get this done this week because Jenny didn't help me out with it and it's all her fault. We don't accept that, and everyone knows that. If you're accountable for it, it's your fault. And that includes me. I'm accountable for things as well.
Sure.
Everyone in our company knows exactly what they're accountable for. Everybody has a number every week that goes into a dashboard, and we check to make sure during our meeting every week if everyone is meeting their numbers, and if they're not, it may become an issue that we have to discuss and solve. So we have an hour-long meeting every single week. It's called the L10 meeting, level 10, because we're trying to, once we get finished with that meeting, we want everyone to rate it a 10. If anyone's not rating it a 10, then we're going to discuss, why did we not rate this a 10? What did we not do in this meeting that would have made it a 10? And so we try to improve our meetings every week. This is our main meeting we have every week. And every level of our company has a level 10. Operations has a level 10. Administration has a level 10. Sales and marketing has their own level 10. Those meetings the lower meetings may only last 30 minutes rather than an hour or an hour and a half. And then you have your leadership meetings. Messages cascade up, messages cascade down. So everyone's literally on the same page of what the goals of the company are, what your quarterly rocks are. We call them rocks because you're chipping away at it. And also we call them rocks because it comes from that old story where the professor put, rocks in a jar, and he said, "Can I fill it up with water?" And everybody said, "Sure." And then he put in, pebbles, and then they said, "Can you put in more water?" "Yes, I can get more water in. Do I have more space?" And then finally he put in sand, and he said, "Well," and they couldn't get any water into the jar at that point. And he points out, he said, "Sand is your day-to-day work, your fires that you're putting out. You'll always deal with the sand all day long. Then the pebbles are the smaller projects that you may have on the periphery around what it takes to get your job done. But the rocks are what you have to get done to really move your company forward every quarter, every week, and you chip away at the rocks. So you have to keep the rocks in your vision every single week and go, hey, how are we doing on this rock?" And the person who's accountable for that rock has to answer. And they have to say, on track, off track, we need to discuss. they break the rocks down into milestones of things that they have to accomplish each week or each month throughout the quarter to get that rock done at the end. Everybody knows what success looks like when that rock is completed. And that's really where we start. If this rock is done, what will it look like at the end? And then we work backwards from that of what we have to do to get to that, what that's going to look like. So, those are just some of the things. There's a lot of other parts to EOS. You've got
Sure.
one-on-one meetings, you got quarterly meetings, you got annual vision meetings. It's just, it brings it all together in one spot. We had looked at self-implementing, trying to do it ourselves, and we talked to some of our clients who had self-implemented, and they all told us that they wasted 5 years self-implementing. If they had just hired a professional implementer from the get-go, they would have been light years ahead very
Sure.
quickly. And we found that to be true for ourselves. We went from 1.5 million a year gross to over 4 million gross
Wow.
in about 1.5 years of implementing this.
That's
And
incredible.
yeah,
That's incredible. So there's a lot of people that listen to this show that are probably newer entrepreneurs, and I'm always trying to make sure that we're giving them resources or actionable ideas, or just advice that they need to hear over and over and over again. Because as humans, sometimes we just need to hear the same message multiple times before it finally clicks. So, tell me, what are some books? I mean, you've already mentioned Traction. What are some of the other books or that you've been through that have had an impact on either your mindset or your business directly that you would recommend for newer entrepreneurs or even people that have been in the business for a long time but looking for a kick in the pants?
oh my God, there's so many.
You can give me
Kaizen,
three.
Kaizen was definitely a great one. It talks about the Japanese belief of start with the smallest thing possible. So a lot of times whenever someone in our company is stuck with a rock, they've got this massive project facing them of, hey, we're implementing an entirely new practice management system. What do I do? And you go, okay, well, what's the smallest thing you can do? And then they come back and say, well, I probably need to talk to somebody. Okay, well, what's the next smallest thing you can do? Well, I
Sure.
probably need to find who to talk to. Well, what's the next smallest thing you can do? I need to open my browser on my computer and go to Google. Okay,
Yes.
start there. We do that to bring people down because part of it too is you read lots and lots of books I think any entrepreneur should understand how the brain works. And you have to understand that you've got this amygdala and you've got this prefrontal cortex, and that amygdala is your lizard brain. I've talked to Navy SEALs about it, and they're like, yeah, my lizard brain is going to tell me to fight or run, and that's its job. And but I have to recognize that, stop it, and get my prefrontal cortex involved, which is my reasoning, my decision making brain. So Kaizen helps us do that. Kaizen takes that big, scary tiger in the forest that's getting ready to chase us, and we break it down to a kitten standing in front of us with Kaizen. So that's
Nice.
a very important book.
Okay.
If you've got a team, if you have um, employees and a structure of any type, if you have not read The Five Dysfunctions of a Team, you need to do that.
Okay.
The biggest reason we see companies fail is because they exhibit those dysfunctions. And the biggest one is accountability, not
Mm.
knowing what you're accountable for and not holding that person accountable for
Mm.
getting it done, blaming everybody else. What drives me crazy is I hear COO when projects fail and the COO says, well, they didn't do this and this department couldn't get this done. And no, it's your fault. It's your fault. You were the leader.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I've always also taken on myself is my name's on the door. So if somebody calls me back when I had the title agency and they're complaining because some closer said something some way or wrote something some way that they didn't like,
Yeah.
I take it as I said it. That's my fault. and I'm not going to call and this person to complain about, what she did or how she said something. It's me. I'm the one. It's my name on the door. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs need to understand that it's their job to take that responsibility, that accountability. Always, ultimately, it's your fault. Whatever happened, it's your fault.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Um,
the buck stops here. It's my door. It's my name. It's my brand. It's my business. And no matter what happens, ultimately, it's my responsibility. And it does take a huge amount of maturity and oftentimes humility in order
right.
to come to that realization and take that position on a regular basis.
Yeah.
What would you
Yeah.
say? So you've got Kaizen, five
Five
dysfunctions of a
dysfunctions.
team. What's that third nugget that you would give somebody?
Gosh, there's so many. I think the third one would probably be the traction, because traction
Okay.
is going to pull together everything else you've got. I mean, of course, there's Cy Wakeman's book, No Drama. If you're dealing with, if you have employees and if you're dealing with customers, her book, No Drama, is wonderful. Of course, Tim Ferriss, The 4 Hour Work Week is great. E-Myth Revisited. Um, all these books really come together, but when you put it all together, it really is boiled down inside of traction. It's all in that one book. The Good to Great. I sort of laugh about it anytime I look back at that book, because so many of the companies that were great are no longer around, like Circuit City. Um, but so you sort of look at it and laugh. But I think what it did was it boiled down what really makes a company great, and traction captures that, though.
Sure.
Traction captures that. It also captures, how to avoid those five dysfunctions of a team, what
Sure.
structures you put in place to do that. Um, the E-Myth Revisited talks about processes and repeating and consistency. The 4 Hour Work Week does the same thing. Cy Wakeman, I just always plug Cy's book, No Drama, because it has helped me so many times when an employee runs up to me and says, "Oh my gosh, this customer's saying this and they don't know, and they're so mad." And Cy Wakeman just gives you the tool to stop that, which is your amygdala. Get that
Right.
amygdala under control. Let's engage your prefrontal cortex real quick, and we're going to solve this problem right now, right here, in a way. But it's not you solving it as the leader. It's they're solving it and they're
Sure.
learning from that, which again is a function of the visionary and also a function of the integrator. Both of those people have, one of their accountabilities is mentoring, coaching, and leading and bringing employees up so that they will be the next generation that runs the business, that runs the company. So then you're creating a business, you're creating a legacy. You're not
Right.
just creating a job for yourself.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. Well, hey, we've taken up about 35 minutes of your time, and I really, really appreciate all of this. I'd like to get off with this. If you were going to give one piece of advice to either an aspiring entrepreneur or maybe one that's just struggling, what would you say to them to as a way to encourage them or just advise them on how they might want to move forward?
Know yourself first. And whether that's through personality tests, counseling,
Mm-hmm.
therapy, if you don't know yourself and understand yourself, you will never have the empathy and the humility to take yourself out of the business in places where you should not be. Um, I've been through a lot of therapy. I've been through a lot of psychological testing, DISC profiling, Colby profiling, Myers Briggs, and study those not only on myself, but also on all of our employees, um, and know all of that stuff like the back of our hand, so that I'm doing something that it doesn't fit me.
Sure.
It doesn't work. And when I'm trying to do something that doesn't fit me, I'm going to come off as inauthentic, and it's going to hurt my consistency. It's going to hurt my brand. It's going to hurt my business overall, and I will never be able to move forward. So if you're just starting out, you got to know yourself first, because then you're going to know who you're going to need to surround yourself with to make up for your weaknesses, and who to best surround yourself with to play to your strengths.
Love that. Love that. Well, thank you so much, Joseph, for being with us today. If people wanted to learn more about you or your company, where would be the best place for them to go and learn more?
They can go to mylandtrustee.com. That's going to bring up our website. And from there, you're going to find us. You're going to find all of our LinkedIn, everything about me, and everything about us. You're going to see it all, mylandtrustee.com.
Awesome. Well, once again, thanks for being here. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in to this episode of the Orlando podcast. We'll see you around Central Florida. Bye.